What's up? Welcome in day 4 of this busy week as we get closer and closer to Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady on Sunday. Really excited for the game. Well, we keep bringing it with more and more Bears content, as this tends to happen on Super Bowl week. And, Johns, you ready to go?
Yeah, big Bears podcast today. 3 guests.
Yes, another Hoge Jahns podcast brought to you by Miller Lite. And we're starting things up. We've got a bunch of Bears players today, and we're starting it with wide receiver Darnell Mooney joining us now on Hoge Jahns. Darnell, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. How about yourself?
We're good. We'll start with this. How's the ankle? How you feeling? I know you must have been bummed out missing the playoff game, but you did finish the season in a really strong note.
It's doing fine. I'm still doing a little treatment, but I got better the next week. So if we would have won that game, I was definitely going to play the next week.
Darnell, the last time we saw you play, it was against the Packers, and I think your performance, one of your best of the year, and it really resonated with a lot of Bears fans, just the way you play tough, the tough yards you gained. Can you take us into the mindset for you heading into that game and then how it played out for you in a playoff-like atmosphere against a rival?
Just the week before when we were playing the Jaguars, I was just getting more comfortable in my own little game. And I just had a goal of trying to get 100 yards. And that was one of my mindsets going in. And I was just able to get the opportunity of getting the ball. And they were feeding me, so I just tried to take advantage of it.
How much confidence did you gain as the season went along? I got to be honest, it seemed like you had confidence from the start. And as we talked to the coaches, even before the season began, it seemed like you really were able to grasp onto the playbook. Where does that come from? Where does that understanding that you obviously possess to pick up on an offense, quite frankly, a difficult offense pretty quickly?
I would just have to say it came from high school all the way up to college. My high school coach, Matt Scott, he taught me very well of just learning the details of things and just how to maintain a good mindset. And then as of my confidence level, like you said, I did have a good confidence throughout the whole season. But my confidence was more so going towards the coaches of like how much they had much confidence in me. So that's what I was trying to build on throughout the whole season. And I feel like they got more comfortable with me throughout the season as well.
When you look back at your rookie season, Darnell, where does Allen Robinson kind of fit in there as a mentor, the leader of your receivers room and a leader of that offense? Like, what did he mean to you as a teammate this rookie season for you?
Definitely a big benefit to me. He taught me a lot of things, just not on the field but off the field as well. Just a lot of knowledge of just the NFL as it is. And then just from early on, before I even got to come to Hallis Hall, he was just speaking a lot of knowledge to me. And then his presence is very, very known. Every time he walks through the door, every time he's just on the field, his presence is very known. So just having him as a teammate was very beneficial.
So how closely will you be watching his situation this offseason, and how big of a loss would it be if for some reason he's not back with the Bears next season?
It will be a very big loss because he's a very impactful player. I'll have him in my top 5 receivers for sure. And hopefully we can get him back here if that is the case.
His season, what stands out to you about what he accomplished? A lot of contested catches, but I'm curious, do you have like a favorite catch of his and maybe a favorite catch of yours from 2020?
2020 would be the Detroit game when he was like a diving catch going towards our locker room side. It was just crazy. I replayed it multiple times. I'm like, I've tried not to drop the ball this year, but it was one catch that he had made that game, and I was like, there's no way I'm catching that ball. That was just crazy.
Well, speaking of drops, you don't drop the ball. I think when it was all said and done, you were credited with just 1 drop, which is incredible. So is the goal next year 0 then?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The goal this year was 0, and the ball that I dropped it on was the easiest catch I could have ever made throughout the whole season. And it was upsetting me throughout the whole game. And they were just trying to tell me to forget about it. But one thing I'm trying to do is just be a perfectionist, and I dropped it. So I got to strive for it next year.
Darnell, did you ever surprise yourself this season? It was unlike any other before. The training camp was different. The offseason program was virtual. There was no fans. But like your success, the way you became a regular contributor for this offense, were you shocked by your own success at any measure?
Not at all. I mean, I knew exactly what I wanted throughout this whole year. Like I said in the beginning of in a previous interview through the summer, that I felt like I benefit more because I was always able to work out by myself, have a good work ethic, and just be able to do what I have to do just to get the goals that I want. And it paid off throughout the year. And there's some goals I'm setting this year, and hope to strive them.
So I have to ask this question. You said that if the Bears had won that playoff game, you would have been back the following week. So had you been playing, would that play design that went to Javon Wims in the end zone, would that have been you in that spot had you been in the game?
No, that's all Javon.
Okay.
That's all Javon.
Well, how long were you guys working on that play, and how tough was it for you just having to sit out that game, working so hard all season, and then the playoffs arrive and you're not out there?
We work on a lot of plays throughout the year just to set up other plays, and that just happened to be one that was that you can set up. And it was very tough sitting out that game. I mean, I've never missed a game since middle school, so it was pretty hard just sitting out, just watching, and able to go back to Tulane, the home of Tulane, and just be able to play there would have been great. And then to take down the Saints would have been great because I know how the fans are there, just from walking around at school and seeing how they are sad when they have a playoff loss or something like that. So it would have been good to try to help deal with that.
Some bragging rights at home, right? I wanted to ask you about Mitch Trubisky this season. Obviously, he wins the quarterback competition coming out of camp, then he gets benched in week 3, then he comes back later in the year. As a receiver of his, like, what does his season kind of mean to you? How difficult was it for you going from him to Nick Foles and back to Trubisky? But, like, what did he do to maybe stick out with you? Like, what type of teammate was he for you as this season had its ups and downs, especially for him?
He truly showed that he's a man. He's not just gonna mope around of what happens throughout life, and he showed good character of just being able to stand up and take different roles throughout like problems that he was that he can say that was a problem throughout the year, and he showed good energy. Of course, you knew when it happened, he was pretty upset when he did get benched, but he came back strong, and he kept out throughout his whole demeanor of just being a good guy.
So, Darnell, you get the benefit of not having to worry about the NFL draft this year. You don't have to train for the combine. You can train as a football player all offseason, and it's talked about a lot, how players make a big jump from year 1 to year 2 because they can focus fully on being a professional in the NFL. So what are your goals this offseason, and what are the finer parts of your game that you're trying to improve as you go into year 2 of your career?
One thing is just being able to catch the ball and just turn upfield and be at my complete speed instead of like having to gradually get 3 steps and then I'm there. But just my acceleration of that, and then just learning more of the game and just getting a good knowledge of the game of how the NFL goes.
Darnell, do you set like number goals for yourself? I know you mentioned 100 yards in the Packers games, but I'm curious. 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Like, what are the goals you set for yourself as you head into year 2?
I haven't written them down yet. I'm trying to see how everything goes, and just waiting until training camp to set those goals. But 1,000 yards plus is on the mark, and 100 yards a game is on the mark.
So how about this offense? Because much like when we were talking about Mitch earlier, there were ups and downs. Things got pretty tough there in the middle, but then you guys really turned it on late. You were scoring 30 points a game pretty regularly. How do you get to that point? How do you start 2021 the way you finished and make sure that that's the offense you have for all season? Because I know that's what the fans want to see.
I would have to say this year, I don't know if it'll be quarterback competition or not, but I feel like that was a toll during training camp, just trying to get a good chemistry on which guy, because they had different cadences. They threw the ball kind of different, and their mindset, so we can just think alike. Just being able to do that would be good, but hopefully we can start fast and just everybody just be on the same page. Just have a lot of confidence of being able to score a lot.
Darnell, how much do you follow the quarterback news in the NFL right now? Obviously, Mr. Trubisky is a free agent, so you might have some changes coming your way. How much do you watch where Deshaun Watson might end up or whatnot?
Right now, I'm just chilling, relaxing. I'm not really focused on anything. Whatever happens. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. It's always surprising news, and so I'm just looking from afar right now. Whatever happens out here in the next hour or so after it happens or so, I'm not really locked in on anything.
All right, Darnell. Well, we appreciate your time today. It was a joy watching your rookie season. Hopefully the fans will be back next year. Hopefully we'll be able to go back to Hallis Hall ourselves and be able to talk to you guys in person. We look forward to all that in 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, from the offense, we go to the defense and another player that had a fine 2020 season. Tashaun Gipson, Bears safety, joins us now on Hoge Jahns. Tashaun, thanks so much for your time. We were just talking to Darnell Mooney. I want to ask you about his season. I know you're on the other side of the ball, but how impressed with you with a rookie fifth-round draft pick having the type of debut that he had?
I think that anybody who in an organization, man, once you first seen a guy step on the field, I think the most important thing was to know how good of a player that he truly was. And from the start of training camp, the first day, once you watch him move and just how he can create separation, and his speed obviously jump off on tape. And when you watch him move, he just a smooth athlete, man. So I think a lot of people were surprised, but once we got in the training camp, obviously this was a little unusual circumstances, so there wasn't preseason, so people wasn't able to get a glimpse at him. So for us, man, I think that within the first week we knew that we had something special in a rookie. Obviously, as he began to play with more confidence as the season went on, he began to do things that left us all impressed. So you got to tip your hat off to a guy like that, man. Came in, obviously a fifth-round draft pick. The expectations probably was to move him along slowly, man, but he just burst on the scene, and there was no denying what he could do for this offense, and he was able to pay big dividends for the team and come up with some huge plays for us throughout the season.
Tashaun, I wanted to ask you about the big news on defense this offseason. Chuck Pagano has retired. Your safeties coach, Sean Desai, is now the defensive coordinator. What have you learned about Sean over this past season, and what makes you think he could be a good defensive coordinator?
The one thing about Doc, man, is that one of the smartest guys, if not the smartest guy, man, that around the game, man, that I've been around. And I've been around a lot of great coaches, man, a lot of smart guys, man. I've been in this thing for a while. And one of the things about him is the biggest thing is you can say that he likes to put his players in position. And Chuck is the same way as well, but I think that Doc see the game from a different lens, and obviously I had a personal, a closer relationship with Doc because he was my position coach. He was a safeties coach, so the safeties obviously dealt with him a little more personal level than I would say the whole defense. But if you the consensus around guys like Coach decides that the guy love ball, and this is all he think about, and this is what he do, and he's a smart guy. And when you think about, you combine those components, man, it's just one of those things where you feel like he's going to be able to put everybody in position to make plays, not just certain guys. And that's the beauty of it, man, when you got a defense like this with guys who can make plays on every level. So I'm excited for Doc for this opportunity, man. Nobody's seen this coming. But I can't say that he's not deserving of it because I couldn't picture a guy more deserving than Doc to be in this position, man. And I'm excited to see him thrive. And I think that everybody's excited to see what he can do in this defense with the players that he has.
So you guys call him Doc because he has a PhD, his educational background. Quite frankly, Sean Desai could probably be a professor somewhere. He doesn't need to be coaching football, but here he is. So when you talk about how smart he is, how does that manifest itself as a defensive coordinator? We talked to Bilal Nichols the other day. He said, Sean Desai, he's going to have you schemed up. Is that what it's all about? Just about him knowing, basically, as he's looking at opposing offenses, exactly what type of coverages you guys should be in?
I think that's when it comes down to being a defensive coordinator, being an effective defensive coordinator. You have to self-scout yourself, obviously. You got to know how teams view you first and foremost, and then you got to be able to utilize your players and playmakers and put them in schemes that's able to go out there and make plays. And I think that that's the biggest thing is playing times throughout the season where he would tell the safeties, hey, this is what I've been noticing the past couple of weeks. Let's change it up. That way you self-scout. And a guy like him, man, obviously he was a safeties coach, and he Chuck ran the defense, obviously. So it's only so much that a position coach can do. Chuck, he was the defensive coordinator. We all respected everything that he can do for us. So it was only so much that Doc can, his input can only do. But, now being able to control the reins, it's exciting because that a guy like that can truly most definitely put us in a situation to make plays. He studied under the defensive coordinator before Chuck. So, I know a lot of people love him. So I think that those same philosophies, he hold near and dear to him, man. And I think that type of football he's bringing back to Chicago. So it should be exciting, man. If people don't know about Doc, I think that a lot of people going to know about Doc this year.
That would be Vic Fangio. Everybody does love him here still in Chicago. Tashaun, teams tend to take on the personalities of their coaches. So what's the personality, the demeanor of Sean Desai? And how about his age? How do you think his youthfulness can be, how does that play out in the field in a way?
You think about now the NFL is the thing about the NFL now is everybody trying to go for the younger, innovative coaches, and I think that this is kind of the way that things has been going, man. So I think that when it comes to his age, I don't think that scares anybody because he's been around ball for a long time, and for him to be able to withstand a couple of coaching staffs, man, I tell you the type of the guy that he is, how highly regarded that they think of him here in Chicago. So obviously that's something, and just him, I don't think that nobody's worried about his inexperience at the defensive coordinator position, man, because like I said, a lot of guys, D-line, linebackers, secondary, people have talked ball with him enough to know, man, that Doc know what he's talking about. And you any given day at practice, you might see him holding a conversation with multiple guys throughout the defense, man, everybody picking his brain and trying to understand what Doc see and understand what's his take on things. And that's just kind of the nature of it, how I've been since I first got here. I noticed he was a guy who I needed to rely heavily on to kind of grasp and get under understanding of this scheme. And he's just a knowledgeable guy. So it's going to be exciting for him to see how he transition, man. But like I said, I think that he's more than equipped to be able to get this job done in Chicago.
Well, another young coach, a new coach to the Bears staff, and also his first time coaching in the NFL. Mike Adams, longtime NFL safety, former Pro Bowler, guy you played with in Houston in 2019. First of all, I need to know why everyone calls him Pops, but I also want to know why everybody seems to love him, because when this news came out the other day, players, reporters, anyone who seems to have been around Mike Adams loves him and really thinks he's going to be an outstanding coach.
Honestly, the name Pops, it just was – I couldn't tell you that, man. Maybe, a couple of guys back in his Cleveland days or back when they first originally started calling him that, man, they probably can give you a better answer. I got to Pops when he was 38, so it was fitting at the time. You 38-year-old guy playing in the NFL. I mean, he could have been, we had some guys in there that was, some young guys in there, so I don't know what the name behind, but the consensus behind him is, even coming to Houston, he was there for a short time. Just the respect that he commanded when he came in the room. Pops was kind of like one of those guys who came there to bridge the gap, man. He was kind kind of like in between coaches and players, man. We had a young room in Houston besides him and J-Joe. And, he was kind of like that guy who, you could talk to Pops about anything. He understood, even though he came late, he understood the scheme, the schematic of things. And he just was a good dude. And from my interaction with him, everybody loved him. I mean, offensive guys, defensive guys. He just a genuinely good dude, man, energetic, man. And for a guy his age, man, I was surprised he could still move like that. It was crazy. So to testament of how he take care of his body, how he handle his business on and off the field, man. And in Houston, we was a tight group. We did a lot of things off the field, man. And he just was a good dude to be around, man. And that it didn't hurt that he was able to play the game at a high level, Pro Bowler, two-time Pro Bowler. And for him to be able to come there in a reserve role and do what he needed to do, man, it was a benefit to having a guy like that who you can lean on because he plays so much football and at a high level. So he was essentially like a coach in Houston, and now he's actually having this opportunity, man. And, I couldn't be more happier for him, man. I talked to him right before he got the job, and he told me that he possibly might be coming to Chicago, man. I couldn't be more excited for a guy like that.
You've been in the NFL for a very long time, and this season was just so different, significantly different from years before. When you look back at the 2020 season, the virtual offseason program, the no fans in the stands, what was it like for you?
It was different. It was something that I don't think that even my mind can begin to fathom, like, what would this season be like? You had an idea, but when you first got there, and I'll never forget when we got to Detroit, and, practice, I'm used to practice being quiet sometimes. Obviously, some teams have thousands of fans at practice and things like that. But, practice is one thing. But when we got to the game, man, and it was truly quiet, it was such a crazy feeling, man. And it's one thing that stuck out to me, man. I remember hearing one of our coaches calling out the plays for Detroit line, and they actually ran the play. And it was the play that Eddie broke up and Cal picked it off. It was a momentum changer. And I'll never forget DT was calling out this play specifically. And we made the play on it, and it just was like, that was something to me that I was like, this is 2021, man. Like, never in my wildest dreams would you be playing in an empty stadium, man, where you can hear your coaches calling out plays and getting people lined up. And just like that to me was like, man, 2021 is going to be a different ball game, man. You can hear guys talking on the side. Like, you can hear everything in there, in those stadiums, man, especially before they allow any of the fans to come. Detroit was like solid. And, for the most part, like when we play at home games, it's quiet. And after a while, you get used to it. But I was here that first month. It was crazy. It just was, it was so unusual, and I don't think that people got used to it. But as the season rolled on, obviously, people became more and more, comfortable playing in empty stadiums. And, unfortunately, that's how the season played out for us. We had to play in empty stadiums, but you missed the fans. When we had a chance to play in front of fans, it made you be like, man, this is what we play the game for, man. It's so exciting to be around fans, and, this is what the game of football about.
Well, Tashaun, we need to talk about you, too. And this opportunity you had to be here in Chicago. You're still flying around in that playoff game against the Saints, making plays. How much did you enjoy the opportunity to come join this defense, and how much do you still want to be a part of it going forward with Sean Desai taking over as defensive coordinator?
Obviously, I think that I'm couldn't be more grateful, man, for Mr. Pace and Coach Nagy, man. When I got cut through, the circumstances last year, man, after the draft and after free agency, I mean, that was a dark place. And, those guys, they gave me a ring, and, they seen something in me. It was a couple of teams that called. And, I felt comfortable. After talking to Nagy, I felt real comfortable, man. And for him to be he was a genuinely good guy. He was the same guy that was recruiting me to Chicago as when I first got here, and he never changed. And just having this opportunity to come here and play in this defense, you thinking about a defense with guys like Hicks, Max, the Roquan Smiths, the Eddie Jackson, the Cal Fuller, like, it was one of the defenses where, anybody would love to come in and step in and play in this type of defense, man. There's no pressure. You just go out there and you play. You just got to make sure that you up to par with the guys that you're playing next to, because, these are some straight dogs around you. So obviously it just was one of those things where it matched perfect, man. And I was excited for the opportunity. And, obviously I had the opportunity, and it was a fun year. It was a fun being around those guys. It was fun being here, even through everything, going through starting off 5-1 to going on a 6-game losing streak. It just was these type of things show the type of character in the locker room. So obviously with Doc being at the helm, and I love the organization. That's one of the things where I got comfortable quick, and it just the type of way that they run the organization is family. Everything was truly loved there. And obviously I would love to come back to Chicago, man, especially play under Doc, because we've had many, many talks, man. And for him to have this opportunity right now, man, I would love to be a part of it. And I understand. But at the same time, I understand it's a business. I've been a part of this on this side, man, a couple of times now in my career. So I do understand the business side of it, man. But make no mistake about it, man. However I could get it done, man, I would love to come back.
Last thing I have for you, because you did play in Houston, everyone's talking about Deshaun Watson right now. What is your reaction as somebody that played for that organization to what is happening? Given that we don't necessarily know everything, but obviously Deshaun Watson wants out of there.
Listen, man, I can tell you honestly, not just from outside, but from like speaking on from the inside, it's different. It's different, and that is no shade to anybody involved, man. But when you see an organization that lose a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, and some of the moves and the things that they've made, it's hard to not understand how you couldn't keep your franchise player who's in my opinion, he's a top 3 quarterback in the National Football League. So when you lose a guy like that, it tell you a lot about what's happening at the top. And, again, my situation was completely different than Hobson, completely different. But, it just shows the way that things is ran there. So, it's crazy when you think about it. Never my wildest dreams would I thought that a quarterback like that in his prime, he haven't even hit his prime, for him to be able to want out of such organization after he signed for a life-changing contract. It's on par with everything that everybody's been hearing, man. Let's just say that. So, hopefully, what happened, man. Who knows where he might end up, man. But he's a good friend of mine, man, and I have nothing but respect for him as a player, as a leader, man. And if wherever he end up, man, he gonna make that team a super contender. I can tell you that much right now.
All right, we'll get on that recruiting trail, all right, Tashaun?
Absolutely. That is definitely the plan.
All right, Tashaun, hey, thanks so much, not only for this, but for your willingness to talk to the media all season long. I know we appreciate it. You're top-notch, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again shortly.
I appreciate y'all for having me, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that was interesting.
Wow.
I don't think I'm surprised by anything he had to say about Houston. It's also not like he buried them by any means, but that's a player who was in Houston. So when I hear people doubt Deshaun Watson's reasons or almost question him, or some of the stuff we heard yesterday from Brett Favre, for instance, where he's basically just saying, hey, you're making too much money to really want to. Yeah, it's obvious if you're listening that what's happening in Houston isn't good, and you at least heard Tashaun Gipson hint at it there.
That Hopkins trade really messed up that team. They didn't it's not only Deshaun Watson lost his number 1 receiver, but Tashaun Gipson is one of their starting safeties. That hurt their team. And that was Bill O'Brien, I know, but Jack Easterby was there. And now you got Nick Caserio, who's still from that Patriots tree. That hurt that team. Deshaun Watson never got over it. Tashaun Gipson just talked about it. That stuck with this team and still sticks with them to this day.
Well, it was a trade that made zero sense whatsoever. I'll still, when that trade came across last summer, I'm just like, there has to be more. Like sometimes when a big news item comes across, or like a big signing in the NFL, you're like, all right, let's wait and see what the guaranteed money is, right? Like there's going to be more to this story. There's going to be like an out in a year into a deal. No, it was just like, this is actually just a terrible trade.
You're getting a running back who's already hurt and could be out of the league in a couple of years. I don't like you look at the Watson situation, it's just so unbelievable. Like, why would the Houston Texans give up this guy? Why would they trade this guy? You heard Tashaun Gipson. He's a top 3 quarterback. He's that good, that talented, that valuable. It would have to be something that sour, that bad on Watson's side to force his way out. And maybe Gipson said something there that is for real and still tangible to this day in Houston.
All right, let's talk about Gipson, the player. He's going to be a free agent. He signed here on a pretty cheap deal that was a really good deal, quite frankly, for the Bears. To me, Gipson played well enough to be a starter on this team. You heard him say the nice things he had to say about Matt Nagy, and I remember him saying that back too when he signed with the Bears, that was a big reason why he wanted to be here. So Nagy's obviously still here. His position coach becomes the defensive coordinator. So I guess the question is, should the Bears re-sign Gipson, and do you think they will re-sign Gipson?
I do think they will re-sign him. I think he was better than Clinton Dix was when he was here for that 1 year. What was it, 2019? So 2020, Tashaun Gipson was better, at least if that's what you're comparing him to, what Clinton Dix did a year ago. He was a good compare and contrast combination with Eddie Jackson, who did not have the best year, but Tashaun Gipson had a couple interceptions. Like you said, when we were talking to him, he played very well towards the end of the season, especially against the Saints. I would see if he would come back on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I think if you're going to make a move like that, he already did sort of the 1-year prove-it deal. I don't know what the demand will necessarily be out there, but you'd probably want to reward him with a multi-year deal. Regardless, I think that they need to find a way to get more out of Eddie Jackson, right? Get more of that ball hawking ability out of Eddie Jackson. And I think that they think that Desai taking over, running more of what Fangio ran in 2018, and hiring a guy like Mike Adams, who played in the league for so long at that position. Granted, he's just going to be the assistant defensive backs coach, sort of getting into coaching for the first time, but I think that they think that experience can really help Eddie Jackson.
Yeah, call it doctor's orders. I like how everybody keeps calling Sean Desai Doc. Can we start calling Sean Desai Doc? Is that
It seems a little awkward
allowed?
to me for some reason.
What's up, Doc? Come on. Maybe we could start Zoom calls with Sean Desai that way. It could be fun.
All right, well, already 2 Bears players. We now head back to the offense. We've talked to Darnell Mooney and to Tashaun Gipson, and now we bring in the Bears' Walter Payton Man of the Year Award nominee this year, Jimmy Graham. Jimmy, good to see you. Good to talk to you. And again, congratulations on this nomination. I'm sure it means a lot to you.
Good to see you both. And it surely does, for me. The biggest honor really, especially being for the Bears and, Walter Payton himself, and to play on that field, to play with that C on my helmet, and now to, receive that nomination is pretty incredible and, extremely humbling, especially with my first year there.
We respect everything you did for the at-risk kids and the military families and all that. But working for the Bears, playing for the Bears, and like you said, this being the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, Jared Payton so well. When you get that news, what are those emotions like for all the work, all the giving back you do, and now you're with the Bears, you're friends with Jared Payton? Like, what were the emotions like for you when you got the nominee?
I was speechless. It was right there in front of the whole team, right there on our practice field, right next to the Walter Payton Center. That's just magical. And, a lot of things I always do kind of in the shadows. It's more about the kids and the veterans than it ever has been about myself. So, I was wondering why the Bears are doing so much digging on all the stuff I was doing off the field. But, it all came back around and all made sense. And, I'm truly, truly honored to accept that. And obviously the emotions were extremely high on that field with the teammates. And it's a moment I'll never forget.
Jimmy, on that note, you mentioning how it's never really been about you. I got to be honest, you've been in the league for so long. I didn't necessarily know a whole bunch about your background until you came here to Chicago and we covered you. So how much, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing off the field with the Jimmy Graham Foundation and how much from your childhood has shaped what you've been trying to do giving back to the community.
Yes, well, number one, the Jimmy Graham Foundation. We give reconnection flights with our veterans. Through a Huey. I actually had a Huey rebuild. I'm a pilot. I've got like 9 different licenses, and I'm a commercial helicopter pilot. So I restored a Huey from the Vietnam War, and we take up veterans and basically tell them thank you. I believe if you take something from this country, which we all do, then you have to give something back, and that's kind of my give back. But also, we take up a lot of children through EAA Young Eagles, which is a program where we take up kids between the ages of 8 and 17 on their first flight. And in my foundation, we take up underprivileged kids to expose them to the aerospace technology industry. There's a lot of jobs in that industry, and they're hurting for jobs. And the long trajectory, that's where a lot of technology is going. So I try to bring them to the airport and show them all these opportunities. If it's not a mechanic, engineers, and all the things that are needed in that industry. And then number 2 or 3, working in basically my first week on the job, once I signed my contract with the Bears, was to find somebody locally that was needing help through this COVID experience. So I reached out and found an organization called Ignite, which helped out about 500 homeless youth in the Chicago inner city area, and basically helped them keep their doors open last year, and and continue to work with them. And I will, the work that they're doing to help these children and to feed these children and to help and to put a roof over their heads is pretty special.
Jimmy, we do have some football questions, some Bears questions for you. But before we get to those, I wanted to ask you about being a licensed pilot. Where did this passion come from? And can you share a couple unique stories, some amazing locations that you've been on, or at least flying over?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a pilot since I was a kid. I saw the movie Top Gun when I was probably too young to see it, and was obsessed with being a fighter pilot. Unfortunately, I grew to be, 6'7", 270. And,
Too big.
That doesn't fit in too many fighter jets. So, sports kind of took my way. But basically, starting from my first year on, I've gotten almost a new license every offseason, except the major surgeries that I've had randomly throughout my career. So if I'm healthy and I'm not on crutches, I usually get a new license. But I tell you, between the airbags and the seaplane and the helicopter stuff, some of the most memorable moments I've ever had in a plane, was flying across the country. I've flown across the country several times at 1,500 feet AGL, and going from Miami to Seattle at times, which took me 29 and a half hours of flying and 3.5 days. So those moments are rare and special when you're able to fly something so old so far.
So my 6-year-old loves Top Gun. Like and I love it too. Were you as bummed as I was when the pandemic pushed Top Gun 2 back a year?
I was beyond bummed about that, and beyond bummed that I didn't even know the thing was being filmed. I would have begged to be an extra.
Yeah, you should be in it.
So, maybe they'll push it back and CGI me in there somewhere. That'd be nice.
Jimmy, we were talking to Tashaun Gipson earlier today, and just the season, this 2020 season, the virtual offseason program, you're a new guy in a new team. What was it like for you, and especially when there's no fans in the stands? Like, how did you process everything while it was happening? And when you look back at this year, like, what was it like?
First, to be new on a team is always difficult to kind of make that transition. I think that sometimes, my name precedes me, and usually whenever you play against me, I'm out there talking some noise. So I think the biggest thing was really to try to connect with the guys, and that's always difficult over video. When I have face-to-face and you can go out with the guys and you can go to dinners, the camaraderie is just so much easier to build. So basically that had to start in training camp. So, just kind of doing that is always difficult. But really for me, kind of one of the most difficult things this season kind of presented itself was, having no fans. That's one of the main reasons that I came to Chicago, was to be able to experience, the Bear fans live, cheering for me instead of against me. I remember what it was like my first year in Green Bay, and with the towels going and everybody going nuts. So for me, that was the hardest thing to deal with, because I play a lot for that celebration. That's one of the main reasons I love scoring, because you either hush a crowd or you hear a roar. And that roar is extremely hard to emulate in any other part of my life. So those moments, those big moments when the crowd's going crazy and you can't hear anything, it feels like the ground's shaking. That's really why I play this game. So, hopefully I get a chance to experience that next year. And that was for me kind of the hardest thing.
Jimmy, I got to ask you about how the season ended, because obviously you guys lose to the Saints. We were already working, and we're writing, we're doing all these things, all this stuff's going on. I go back and watch the end of the game, I don't know, a few hours later, and I see you catch this touchdown and just walk off. And I got to say, I know the season didn't end the way you guys wanted. it was kind of funny, and it was an enjoyable way to go back a few hours later and watch it. What happened there in that moment?
I've got a lot of history there,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I really haven't spoken about, even being traded before. So, that still sticks with me every day. And, to go there and to play them in the playoffs, and then, all the work I put in that offseason and all the work we had done to even make the playoffs, with our backs against the wall, with everyone, denying us, it was just I was just exhausted. I mean, I hate losing. And I hate losing in the playoffs. And, I played in a lot of games over my career, but that feeling and that disappointment, it never gets easier. And for me, a guy who just cares about winning rings, I mean, that's, to make it to a game on this Sunday is everything for me. So, I was just hurting, and it's always difficult when you're not going to be playing the next Sunday and you don't have a chance to win.
Jimmy, you've played with some great quarterbacks in your career, and I wanted to go to this year. Mitch Trubisky's story. He wins the quarterback competition. He gets benched in week 3, comes back, leads you guys into the playoffs, plays in that playoff game. What did you learn about Mitch? Like, what's your takeaway from Mitch Trubisky from this season?
Man, the kid's got heart. He is. I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult that is to go through. And just like the Bears, the Philly fans, fans, and they expect so much and they want so much because they want to win, and that's a lot of pressure. And a lot of guys, have difficulty with that pressure. So to go through all he went through, to get benched and then to come back and do what he did, I think really shows his character. It shows how tough he is. It shows how mentally strong he is, because that's not easy. It really isn't. And my hat goes off to him, man. It was incredible to see and to be on the field, watching him, make these crazy throws and these off balance, kind of sidearm deals. And you could just tell that he was just leaving it all on the field, and that, he was playing with extreme confidence. So I think it just shows, the kind of man he is and how strong he is.
Hey, Jimmy, the Bears were kind of hurting at the tight end position before you came in this year. You gave them something they didn't have the season before, 50 catches, 8 touchdowns. Obviously, the organization has embraced you with this Man of the Year award nomination. And yet you also know, as you mentioned that trade in New Orleans, this is a business and things can be unpredictable. So what is your approach this offseason? How are you approaching things? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe you mentioned before when we talked to you that you ideally like to end your career in Chicago. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I mean, that's still the case. Obviously, it was difficult losing in the playoffs, and I'm never going to be soft about that in any type of way. But we obviously have a lot of things to figure out this offseason, and we'll see what happens. Kind of once I talk to everybody and once they figure out what they want to do. But I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna get to work. I've already been at work. Get my body, my mind ready. So, we'll see what happens. But, that's not on me and that's not up to me. I know a lot of guys, and I know, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. So, I hope so. I enjoy playing with all the boys. I enjoy playing for this organization, and hopefully I get to experience that true home fan experience.
I know Cole Kmet, a local guy, a Bears fan too at heart, would love to have you back. What was it like being his mentor a bit and becoming brothers, having that close bond and having him really come into his own late in the season?
Yeah, I don't think people realize, just truly how close me and him, had gotten this season, from the beginning to the end. His hunger to be, to be good and to be elite and to learn, was amazing to see. And then to see his growth from, just one day to the next was truly awesome to see as well. And I always said, I enjoy being on the field with him, every time that we played a 2 tight end set, I took that personal, because I wanted to make sure that, I was on that field with him to enjoy those moments with him. I remember whenever he scored, and we did that celebration together. We had talked about that, weeks before, and so those moments like that, those are the moments that you live for, and I enjoy playing with him. The kid is going to be a beast. The kid really, has unlimited potential, and I'm excited to see where he's headed, and hopefully I can still continue to help him get there. And if I am, no matter where I'm at, I'm always going to help him, and I'm always going to be close with him, and he'll always truly be my little brother.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt, Jimmy, what the impact you had on him, the team, with your production, and also obviously off the field, which probably means the most to you in earning this Man of the Year nomination. Congratulations on that. Best of luck with how that award turns out this weekend. And thank you for everything this season, not only here today, but the times we had talking to you over Zoom. Hopefully next season it's in person.
Yeah, I appreciate everything. Obviously this past year has been difficult on us all, and very, just kind of hard with the player, fan, and media kind of interaction. But I thank you guys for all the help, and for truly shining a light on what matters, which is what we're doing off the field. It's not only myself, but all of my teammates are doing things in the city of Chicago, to help our youth, and to help us all get through this time. So thank you again.
All right, thank you so much, Jimmy. Jimmy Graham, Bears tight end, and the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Chicago Bears this season. And I got to be honest, Jimmy Graham's obviously a huge name. He's been in this league a long time, done such good things. He mentioned how his name kind of precedes him when he shows up places. I didn't know a whole lot about his background, and the reputation coming out in terms of him talking to the media. You hear these stories about how he didn't talk to the reporters in Green Bay for a long time. I thought he was outstanding this year.
Yeah. I thought he was outstanding on the field as well. I know there were certain limitations that he had being at the stages of his career, but he was a viable red zone threat. Just brought a lot of energy and passion to practice as well. We saw that early in training camp. He was a great influence for Cole Kmet. I'd bring him back, Adam.
Yeah, and sometimes that takes renegotiating a contract. Maybe you tack on an extra year. You bring them. I don't know.
But even this 1 year is not too bad.
It's really not when you consider all things he did. And I agree. I think that this is a player who his impact on some of the other players, like Cole Kmet, you hear him talking about that. It's probably worth bringing him back.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But Jimmy Graham, he surprised me in a lot of different ways this year, I got to be honest, with his production, with his impact off the field. There was a lot I didn't know about. And I kind of enjoy veterans like that when they come in and you learn more about them, especially guys like that who you consider a superstar in the NFL.
Yeah, he might be a Hall of Famer.
He probably should.
The numbers are there.
The
numbers are there.
All right. Well, how about that? 3 Bears on the Hoge Jahns podcast today. Enjoyed it. Darnell Mooney, Tashaun Gipson, Jared Allen, and we still got one more day to go. Plenty more to come here on the Hoge Jahns podcast. You can watch us on the My Teams app at 3 p.m. Of course, listen to the podcast as usual. We're also on YouTube. One more day to go. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See ya.
Hogan, Adam Jahns.
Sounds good.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
How you doing? Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thank you.
You guys hear me all right?
Yes,
Yep.
I hear you.
All right.
You doing a lot of media this week?
Yeah. It's Super Bowl week's usually – this is the first time in 6 years I haven't been at the venue, so.
Yeah, me too, at least the last few years. I'm used to seeing you running around on Radio Row.
See the